Everybody seated who's going to sit? All right, folks. Thank you all so much for coming out on such an absolutely beautiful day. We got the 2 or 3 days of rain out of the way. We got the humidity, what feels like most of the humidity, out of the way. And if there are people here that don't live in Dartmouth, by all means hit me up for a real estate business card later. It's not easy to find a place to live in Dartmouth Cole Harbour anymore. We seem to have been the hot new place to live, so you might have a bit of a struggle finding a place, but we'll help you. We'll work on that for you. My name is Darren Fisher, and I live a mile away from here. And to say that Vets Canada is, and I'm singling out Vets Canada for a moment, we're in their beautiful new location, but to say that they're near and dear to my heart is a bit of an exaggeration. They are literally nearer to my heart where I live. Each time they move successively, they were downtown, they moved a little bit uptown, and now they're here on Main at Caledonia, and it's a great new location. And I have to tell you that hiding in the back are the guys that have been working till midnight. So I've been to this building numerous times in various different iterations, but only the second time here at Vets Canada, and they were all here then, and I think they might have been eating brownies and cookies back then as well. But literally, and I don't mean to, overstate the importance of this, but they've done so much in this place in such a short time, and literally we're here until midnight. And the only thing Jim couldn't convince them to do is put up the baseboards. Made you look. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory, the Mi'kmaq people, and I want to just acknowledge a few special people in the crowd. Everyone in this crowd is special, so please don't take it wrong when I don't acknowledge you. I've got boilerplate notes in front of me, but I will try to make sure that I do justice to the names on this list. Ginette Petitpas Taylor. We just call her Ginette. We love her. Welcome, Ginette, Minister of Veterans Affairs. Sean Fraser, we also just call him Sean. That's what we do in Atlantic Canada. We don't go by these big fancy titles. I'm Darren, Ginette, Sean, but Sean is the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities. Debbie Lowther. At the back of the room, looking stunning in this amazing leisure suit, Debbie Lowther. Thanks, Debbie, for hosting us today. Dr. Belinda Seagram, Founder and Executive Director of Landing Strong Cooperative. Welcome. I just destroyed the ears of the media. Sorry about that, folks. This is not good. Oh, and this guy actually kind of likes me. For now. Sorry, bud. Easy for you to do. And also I want to acknowledge the board members of Vets Canada and the board members and volunteers from Landing Strong. Let's give a round of applause for these two incredible groups who do so much important work. As we as a government look to build a better future for all Canadians, we're going to continue to make strategic investments in housing and infrastructure that are critical to supporting Canada's veterans. We've got the Veterans Minister here today, and we've got the Infrastructure Minister here today. And we also have Lena Metlich-Diab, the Member of Parliament for Halifax West, who I have to say gets out to more important announcements than any other MP that I've met in my nearly 9 years as Member of Parliament. Welcome again, Lena, to Dartmouth Cole Harbour. So I had the notes here with the actual announcement on it, but it's been scratched out, which tells me that you're down here in the pecking order. So we're going to save the announcement for the important ministers. But I do have the words here, so I could be a real spoiler today and start the conversation about what it is that we're here to do today. But I'm a great team player, and I refuse to do that. So without further ado, I would like to ask if you could give your hands a little round of applause for the Honourable Sean Fraser, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, who will deliver remarks on behalf of the Government of Canada. Sorry.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Darren, thank you for the kind introduction. And before I get too far, let me just say that you've been an enormous advocate for this organization, Vets Canada, and more broadly for the issue of housing for veterans from the time that we've met. I actually came to learn about the organization through Darren years ago. Subsequent to that, a number of other caucus colleagues, Lena in particular, and Daryl Sampson, I should acknowledge, have been tremendous advocates for the work that Vets Canada and other organizations do. I also want to say thank you to Vets Canada in particular for allowing us to be here in your space today to share some important news for your organization, but more importantly for the people that you serve. And to Landing Strong, who I'm just getting familiar with more recently, the work that you do is so important on an issue that's near and dear to my heart that I've been working on a number of years, which is to support veterans and first responders who are struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder or operational stress injuries, as the case may be. But today we want to talk a little bit around some of the work that these organizations can do to help integrate members into their community, particularly by providing supports to ensure that some of our most vulnerable have housing options made available to them. We are living through a housing crisis across Canada and here in Nova Scotia. It reveals itself in very human ways in different parts of the country. You see young people who are priced out of the market due to the rising cost of rent. It's increasingly difficult for people to be able to afford a home in the community where they grew up. But I can't help but think we will never get to a point where we can say we've solved the housing crisis if some of our most vulnerable continue to go to bed without a place to call home every night. Homelessness does not impact all of us equally. There are different people, different groups within our society who are uniquely and disproportionately impacted. And we see, in particular, there are too many veterans who do not have a place to call home. Our estimates are as high as 2,600 veterans across Canada are experiencing homelessness. This is unacceptable to me. We're dealing with people who have been willing to risk their lives in service of their country. And in a country as wealthy as Canada, if we can afford to send our citizens to war, we can afford to take care of them when they come home. When I think about what people were willing to give, the least that we should give back is to ensure that those who've served Canada have their basic needs met. That's why we created a program specifically to address homelessness amongst veterans, the Veterans Homelessness Program. It's important that we put resources behind our commitments to veterans. It's not enough simply to say thank you for your service. It's not enough just to go to the cenotaph on Remembrance Day. We actually have to put our money where our mouth is. We have to create programs that will directly improve the quality of life that people get to enjoy at the time that their tour is ended. This fund comes with a $79.1 million contribution, not to have the government send cash to people in need, but to support organizations who know where the solutions exist in their communities on the ground. I'm so pleased to share that today we are supporting 2 Nova Scotia-based organizations with a contribution of $6.7 million to help those organizations who help veterans find housing solutions. And I think this would be a great time. And while I thank you for your applause, please know that the groups that deserve your applause are Vets Canada and Landing Strong. The work that they do is absolutely incredible. I've had the opportunity to meet Jim and Debbie on a couple of occasions, walk through your old facility, and to see that you're expanding to the new facility is incredible. But the work that you do to help people find housing in a community where housing is hard to come by is extraordinary. You're dealing with people who often have underlying issues that complicate their lives beyond the housing challenges that they experience, and I want to say thank you sincerely for the work that you do. Similarly, Landing Strong, the work that you do to be able to integrate people into communities, learning a little bit about the trauma-informed expertise that you have to help people overcome illnesses related to their service. It makes me very proud to be Canadian, to know that there are people who are looking out for those who've looked out for us. When I see the work that you're actually going to be able to do, Vets Canada receiving $5.1 million to help with rent supplements, to help close the gap between what a person can afford and what's available, making sure that you're helping people find temporary accommodations, covering some of the moving costs, but more than just directly impacting the cost of housing, you're also placing those wraparound services in place. What I see when you're able to use these funds to provide secure counseling, mental and physical health supports, and ensuring that people are developing the life skills necessary so they can stand on their own 2 feet, I see real value that the organization's providing. With Landing Strong, the work that you're able to do, including putting programs in place that focus on that community integration, seeing that you have financial aid for housing and focusing on the whole person's ability to recover from service-related injuries and illnesses, it's extraordinary. And to back that work that you do with $1.5 million is the kind of thing that I know is going to provide value to people in need. Il est essentiel de lutter l'itinérance avec les vétérans et vétéranes. C'est très important pour protéger les Canadiens qui est plus vulnérables, incluant chercher des solutions pour trouver du logement pour ces personnes. Ce n'est pas possible pour résoudre la crise du logement si les personnes continuent de dormir sans une maison, sans du logement. We have to make the investments necessary to solve these problems, and today brings us one step closer. But today's announcement is not about the fund that the government puts in place. It's about the work that the organizations are doing to help vulnerable people who deserve our support because they helped us in our time of need, and it's time we help them in theirs. I want to say thank you, congratulations to the organizations, and I am so looking forward to seeing the help that you're going to provide to the people who need it. Congratulations.
Thank you so very much, Minister Fraser, for that wonderful news, and for actually being quite kind to Daryl and I when you alluded to advocacy on behalf of Vets Canada. He didn't use the word pestering, but I feel that we bordered on pestering quite considerably because we did, and Lena was part of that, and then Daryl Sanson was an absolute bulldog with this file for many years. So he's unable to be here today, but I know that he's here in heart, and he's probably, if there's a virtual segment, he's probably following it right now on Zoom or something. Anyway, now I would like to call upon the Honourable Ginette Petitpas-Taylor, Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defence.
Thank you so much, Darren. Bonjour tout le monde. Quel plaisir d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real honor and privilege to be here with all of you. Darren, it's always wonderful to be in your beautiful riding and always wonderful to meet and to work with my colleagues from Nova Scotia, all of you. I have to say that when I became the Minister of Veterans Affairs, I also heard from a lot of you with respect to the wonderful work that's being done here in the province of Nova Scotia. And I'm really thrilled and honored to be here and supporting my friend and colleague, Sean Fraser, for this really important announcement as he's indicated. Debbie is in the back of the room. Debbie and Jim, thank you so much again for hosting us today in what is going to be a beautiful facility. We can feel it already. And thank you so much for Landing Strong for being here today as well for this really important announcement. As Sean indicated, the celebration today is about the work that you do day in and day out, and we are very pleased to be able to support the work that you do, the very important work that you do in supporting our veterans. As Sean indicated as well, our government's position on homelessness has always been very clear. Every Canadian deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. That's why Minister Fraser has been advancing Canada's housing plan and bringing the federal government back into a leadership role when it comes to housing in Canada. This includes supporting those who are experiencing homelessness and helping them find a safe and affordable place to call home, and also making sure that they can access the support and resources that they need in their time of need. Au cours de la dernière année, j'ai parcouru le pays pour entendre des témoignages des vétérans et vétéranes. Je dois vous dire, j'ai été dans des régions rurales, dans les régions du nord du Canada, ainsi que dans des grandes villes. Je peux vous dire qu'il n'y a pas deux histoires qui sont uniques quand on parle des vétérans. For some, life after military is a smooth transition, while others, as we know, face challenges. And unfortunately, sometimes these challenges are very complex, and a veteran may find themselves precariously housed. Since 2015, Veterans Affairs Canada has created new programs to help some of our most vulnerable veterans. And I'm thinking of a few examples of programs that have been created since 2015, one being the Veterans Emergency Fund. So for those who aren't aware, when veterans are facing some challenges, they can access some emergency funds through Veterans Affairs Canada. We've also put in place a new mental health benefit. When veterans are applying for mental health care, they can receive immediate assistance when it comes to mental health services. Or supporting organizations on the ground who open doors to community educational, or volunteer opportunities to help veterans find a renewed sense of purpose. And again, we've recently closed an application process for the Veteran and Family Wellbeing Fund, and I'm certain that probably some of you have applied for some funding through that stream. But today's program is another tool in the toolbox to help these individuals find a new way forward. Canada's veterans have made tremendous sacrifices, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we are there for them in their time of need, to provide them with the support and care that they need. Our government launched the Veterans Homelessness Program because the reality is that one veteran experiencing homelessness is one too many. Le programme de lutte contre l'itinérance chez les vétérans fournit des fonds à des organisations à travers le pays pour, numéro 1, livrer des suppléments de loyer et de soutien pour aider les vétérans qui font face à l'itinérance. Numéro 2, améliorer leur capacité à servir les vétérans et de financer des projets de recherche qui aideront à mieux comprendre les défis auxquels les vétérans y sont confrontés. As indicated, homelessness is complex, and each situation requires a different approach. With projects with Vets Canada and Landing Strong, we are supporting unique projects that will make a huge difference in the lives of veterans. By working together to end chronic veteran homelessness, we are not just providing a roof over a veteran's head, we are removing a fundamental barrier to their well-being. Lorsque les vétérans sont logés, ils participent activement à la vie de leur communauté en apportant leurs compétences, leur expérience et leur esprit d'initiative. It's about creating an environment where veterans can thrive and continue to give back, just as they always have. Once again, I simply want to take a moment to thank our two organizations today. We look forward to the work ahead, and again, happy that we are able to be a small contributor to the important work that you're doing within our community. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Minister Petitpas Taylor. Next up, Deb Lowther. Deb, I had said earlier that Vets Canada is near and dear to my heart, and now you are only about a mile away from me. You also live on the same street, in the same neighborhood. Our kids, this is a tight community. Our kids hang out together, and when their parents are away, they party at their house, and when we're away, I don't like the idea of thinking about that, but Deb, why don't you come up and say a few words about some of the important things that you and Jim have done.
Minister Fraser, Minister Petitpas Taylor, MP Fisher, and guests, good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. As an organization whose sole purpose is to provide aid and comfort to Canadian Armed Forces and RCMP veterans who are homeless, at risk of becoming homeless, or otherwise in crisis, we could not be happier to be standing here today to talk about a veterans homelessness program. The process to get here was long and arduous, and I'm sure we drove Minister Fraser and his staff crazy along the way, Darren as well, for that matter. And I'm glad you used the term pester, because I will assure you that the only reason Darren and Daryl pestered you folks is because we were bordering on harassing him. So that's all on us. Jim and I never intended to start a national organization. However, in 2010, we identified a gap in services and realized that veterans were slipping through the cracks. While volunteering at a local Sunday supper for those less fortunate, Jim encountered 4 veterans who were experiencing homelessness. In our efforts to find help for them, we discovered that aside from Veterans Affairs Canada, there were no supports available specific to veterans. Having seen the problem, we couldn't unsee it and felt an obligation to do something. So we started a small grassroots movement here in Halifax, which quickly spread across the country and organically grew to become the Vets Canada that we are today. For a long time, we, along with Veterans Affairs, were the only organizations focused on veterans homelessness. Fast forward to 2024, and a number of other groups have dipped their toes into the veterans homelessness pool, and the government has acknowledged the issue by launching this veterans homelessness program. So I'd say we've come a long way. I'd like to share what this funding means to us as an organization, and more importantly, what it means to the veterans that we serve. For us as an organization, it means that we can continue to support veterans who have suffered and sacrificed so much for the rest of us. For the veterans we have the privilege to work with, it could mean the difference between life and death. For the veteran here in Nova Scotia who had been living on the streets and in encampments for 6 years, it means we've been able to get him into transitional housing with a solid plan for permanent housing on the horizon. For the veteran in Ontario, a single mother who was living in her van with her 3 children, it means she gets to keep her kids because she now has a safe, warm place to call home. For the young veteran in New Brunswick who was living in his car with his pregnant fiancée, it means that they were able to bring their baby home from the hospital to a real home. These are just a few of the situations that we deal with across the country every day. There are hundreds more, unfortunately. From the minute we signed our agreement with Infrastructure Canada near the end of June, and we were given the green light to implement activities under our program, we hit the ground running. And since that time, we've already identified and supported 34 veterans who are homeless or on a trajectory to become homeless. One component of the Veterans Homelessness Program that is new to us is the ability to provide rent supplements. In the past, we've been able to help veterans with arrears rent to avoid eviction, or we've been able to pay first month's rent and security deposit to help move a veteran into housing. But being able to provide ongoing supplements is a game changer. The housing crisis and inflation have impacted all Canadians, and veterans are not exempt. Housing affordability has been an incredible barrier. Veterans who are paying more than 30% of their income on rent could be eligible for the rent supplement that we can now offer. In closing, I would like to thank the federal government, specifically Infrastructure Canada and Veterans Affairs Canada, for launching the Veterans Homelessness Program and providing us the funds so that we can continue to have an impact on the issue of veterans homelessness in Canada. I would also like to thank you all again for being here and remind you that if you do know of a veteran who is homeless or at risk, please send them our way. That's what we're here for.
Thanks so much, Deb. Really, really appreciate that. Next up, we're going to call upon Dr. Belinda Seagram to deliver remarks on behalf of Landing Strong.
Good afternoon. Minister Fraser, Minister Petitpas, MP Fisher, and members of our community. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge the Chair of our Board, Sean Hiscott, and a couple members of our dynamic team, Deb Eaton, Pam Turcott, and Jen Whalen, who are here today as well. At Landing Strong, we are absolutely thrilled to be the recipients of funds which will allow us to tackle such a real and pressing issue facing our veteran community. Landing Strong is a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting veterans and first responders. Our facilities and clinically led programs are intended to provide a safe landing space for those who have been injured in service. Who can imagine that a Canadian military member or RCMP officer and their family might be facing housing and food insecurity following a life of service to country? This is a reality for many. When someone is living with PTSD or other operational stress injuries, they already feel isolated and alone. Home is their safe place. Imagine if this did not exist for them. How can recovery possibly happen when the basics of food and housing are not guaranteed? The Infrastructure Canada grant will allow us to ensure that those who have served are now being taken care of. No one is left behind. No one is left out in the cold. Since our inception in 2018, we've had over 200 veterans and first responders coming through our intensive programs. We're located in Windsor, Nova Scotia. We have virtual programs, and we have people driving across the province to come to participate. On average, people would do about 150 to 175 hours of programming as part of their recovery plan. It might be over the course of a year. And as they get stronger and have a firmer foundation under their feet, they might transition to some more community-based participation. So Landing Strong, our goal is to provide a safe place and community for those on the journey of recovery. When people call us, there is no wait list. We don't ask them, are you funded? If you call us and you meet our mandate, our doors are open for you. With a safety net in place, allowing stability in terms of basic needs, injured veterans will be able to access our intensive day treatment programs at a pace and a level that's comfortable for them. It's hard to talk about one's injuries and process past trauma if there's uncertainty about where to sleep or how to feed the family. With these funds, we can remove that level of concern, allowing people to immerse themselves in an unimpeded journey of recovery and self-care. We are so unbelievably grateful for the support from both Veterans Affairs and Housing Infrastructure and Communities. Thank you so much for believing in us and investing in our veterans and our first responders. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Seagram. You know, I look in the around the room and I think about how great things are when the people in the room choose to do good. This room is filled with people who have chosen to do good. Belinda, to you and your group, your board, HIS, nice to see you. Sorry, Mr. Hiscott, nice to see you here today in Dartmouth, your old hometown. You grew up less than a mile from here. Vets Canada, Deb and Jim, your whole group, you choose to do good and you do amazing things. Whether it's the nearly 1,000 or maybe over 1,000 volunteers across the country. It's amazing what we can do when we're surrounded by people who choose to do good. Folks, that's the formal part of the event. We'll do a quick little photograph up here with the speakers. And we'd ask those who spoke today to come up again. And then we will make available our speakers, our ministers, and our other speakers for some questions from the media. Thank you again so very much, everyone. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? Over here? Okay.
There may be. The backdrop might be better. Can we... The
We can
podium
either
come
bring
down?
the flags over there, or we can move the... What are your thoughts? Do we want to just grab the flagpoles?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
It's our flag.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. So just for clarity, what this fund is about is supporting organizations who are implementing solutions on the ground to help veterans who have housing need. In addition to the direct supports that amazing community organizations like Landing Strong or Vets Canada may provide, there's also an opportunity to build out housing stock that can be dedicated to the community of veterans who have now housing need. So we have a number of different ways that we can do that, over and above the $79 million, which, although just put in place in April, is already rolling out to support organizations. We have different programs available through the Affordable Housing Fund, for example, the new program we put in place to support cooperative housing. And I've had a number of conversations with the Minister of National Defence to determine whether we can use some of the properties that are owned currently by the federal government to build more housing for men and women who serve, and potentially for the community of veterans as well. So all of that is over and above the $79 million that we put in place, but you would usually still be targeting affordable housing opportunities that could be for the veterans community, but is not necessarily limited to that group of Canadians.
For the rent supplement, which is something that's going to be implemented, are there going to be any criteria for veterans that can apply? Just for context, Canada Nova Scotia Targeted Housing Benefit offers help for those renters who are paying more than 50% of their gross household income. So is there going to be any similar criteria for veterans?
Certainly. So one thing that's important to understand about the announcement today and the program, the Veterans Homelessness Program, is that we don't necessarily dictate what the solutions will be from behind closed doors in Parliament Hill. We allow local organizations to advance programs that will meet the needs locally of their community. So you would have heard Debbie at the microphone from Vets Canada explain that if you are a veteran who's paying more than 30% of your income towards rent, then you may qualify for the rent supplement that they have are making available through the support that we provided today. So that flexibility is at a local level is a key feature of the specifics of this particular program that allow organizations who know their community best to implement solutions that will work best for their particular community. Yeah, thank you. You guys good?